Hey everyone, I recently had an interesting discussion with a friend after I released my review of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. We talked about what AAA means in the gaming world and what it should mean. But what really ticked him off was the fact that I said the game is AAA on a budget. And it ticked some of you off in the comments, I saw that. So let's dive into this topic together. First, let's look at the standard definition of a AAA game. High budget, high profile games typically produced and distributed by large, well-known publishers. These games often become blockbusters due to their extreme popularity. Many are part of successful franchises with new installments building on the success of previous games. Now, watch this until the end just to see how many times I say AAA in this video. If the count is right, you will win an honorable mention in my next video. I'm not big enough to do giveaways, so I'm sorry for that, and let's fix it. Wink wink. Now, let's zoom in on a part of this definition. These games often rank as blockbusters due to their extreme popularity. You could argue that a game can't be extremely popular without being a quality product, right? Well, not really. A game can be popular for the wrong reasons. Concord comes to mind, Skull and Bones, Anthem, etc. There are plenty of examples. But here's the thing, I believe we need to introduce the perceived quality of a game into this definition, because at the end of the day, it's the quality that matters to us gamers, not just the label or whatever. A quick disclaimer here, I always respect the work put into all games, and I hope every gamer does too. Please respect the developers and everyone involved. If a game ends up being a clusterfuck, it's not the little guy's fault, I can promise you that, because nobody is keeping many incompetent people inside their company. It just takes 3 or 4 people with decisional power to fuck it all up. Yeah, the little guy is the cool guy. Now, let's talk about those buzzwords. AA, AAA, AAA plus, quadruple A. Woo. Some of these terms need to evolve and others might need to be scrapped altogether. It's as simple as that. Now, from the industry's perspective, these buzzwords have specific meanings. But what about the consumer's perspective, the average gamer's view? My friend argued that the AAA definition doesn't mention quality because that's subjective, and we'll get back on that in a bit. Then why bother with the AAA term? I mean, who cares about labels, right? And that's a great question. When you go and buy a Ferrari, not that I would know how it is to buy a Ferrari, but hear me out. You know that's quadruple A in automobile business. No excuses. You will not end up with a half-assed car that works only half the time, delivered part by part, because they decided to slap early access on it, Why in this industry every developer I see online feels cringe and entitled to excuses, Oh, but you guys don't know the entire story. Oh, but the budget. Oh, but we didn't have time. Oh, but we iterated 10 times on a shitty feature. That's still shit at release, by the way. So yeah, all that is on you guys. The consumer shouldn't care, as is the case with any other product in existence. Only in entertainment this shit flies the last couple of years. Now that I believe the term AAA... I believe the term AAA should be reserved for games that not only have high budgets and come from big publishers, but also deliver high quality, because we all care about that. We don't give a if 10 studios banded together to work on a video game. We don't give a shit if you are mostly a respectable company, because look at how much goodwill was burned with players in the last couple of years by these big companies. Every month or so a big game comes out unfinished, riddled with bugs, or just a broken mess, plain and simple. No AAA game should be called AAA if the quality is subpar, regardless of the budget or publisher, and we should call them out every time. We should shame them into oblivion. Now I got carried away, but back on topic. On the flip side, an indie studio that releases a game that has the scope and the quality of a AAA should be recognized as such, even if it was made on a smaller budget by a guy or a girl in his or her mom's basement, And this brings us nicely to the budget talk. My friend mentioned that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's 41 million budget isn't cheap for Eastern Europe. Well, he's not wrong, but he's not right either, in my opinion at least. The cost of living in the Czech Republic is pretty much the same as in Poland from what I see, and it's about half of that in the US. This is an average, by the way, hold your horses. This is just an average. I know in some parts of the US the cost of living is insane, but the average is this. With that in mind, let's look at some game comparisons, shall we? And we look at the budgets. The Witcher 3 had double the budget of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and was released 10 years ago. Kingdom Come Deliverance, the first one, came out in 2018 with a budget of 36 millions, so it's just 5 million shy of the second installment. If Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was made in the US, it would have cost around 80 millions, right? Now we could debate which game is better, but that's not the point. The Witcher 3 had 81 million budget and the other game came out 10 years later. So even without considering inflation, the comparison is interesting. Now let's look at some other games. Black Myth Wukong had a 43 million budget. Some say it was 70 plus and took 6 whole years to make. Dragon Age the Veilguard, over 200 million and took 9 years to complete. I don't know about that. I don't know if it's accurate or not. It seems a bit stretched in my eyes at least. Cyberpunk 2077, 316 millions, done in 8 years. Concord, great game guys, great game. 400 millions and took 8 years to complete. Red Dead Redemption 2, 540 millions, again 8 years. What a difference, bro. What a difference. Concord, Red Dead Redemption, 8 years. And when you look at the games, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, 700 millions, 4 years. Now that's something, right? And then there's Skull and Bones, reportedly costing 650 millions to 850. That's including the Singapore government subsidies, by the way. And only took 11 years to make. That's 11 years of development hell, guys. Jesus Christ. This must be the biggest failure of the industry so far, and I would love a documentary about it. It would serve educational purposes to developers all around the world on how not to do a game. Quality versus budget. Now, I mentioned a few great games here, and a few games that don't deserve the AAA label besides that name, despite the bugs, popularity, and even the high-profile names involved. Despite the budgets, I'm sorry. I said bugs, budgets. I included Black Myth Wukong in the discussion just because I want people to see, by comparison with other titles on this list, how efficient Eastern studios are. And let me tell you my opinion about it. They are scary efficient. Yeah, they are good. Despite the controversies, I strongly believe Dragon Age the Veilguard deserves the AAA status, even by my own definition. You can watch my review of the game here, by the way. Cyberpunk 2077, 300 plus million seems well spent. CDPR did a great job in the end, even if the release was botched for many people. I was the lucky ones. I didn't have a single issue my first playthrough. Only the second, which was back to back, by the way, I had some visual anomalies. Let's say that. Concord, 400 millions, and I don't have any opinions about this game because I haven't played it, other than the fact that it looks like a very mismanaged game. As you can see, the huge budget sank into this pit of shame. It's not reflected in the game, bro. Come on. It's... Now we are going into stupid town territory with the budgets, with Red Dead Redemption, of course. But yeah, that's a classic, and in my opinion one of the best games ever made. I can see those 540 millions while playing it all over the place. In each activity I do, even when I'm fishing, when I'm looking at the horse's balls, you know, and it's cold outside and I see them shrink. So good. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, 700 millions. 700 millions, bro. Although COD is a great functional product, and I'll come back to this in a bit because I know I'll get some hate because I'm saying Call of Duty is great. Like FIFA and many other games, you can't ignore some of the shortcuts Activision take to spit one of these every 2 years or so, and it always leaves you wonder, what if that stupid marketing budget would be spent on the actual development of the game, you know? So I can't really see that budget in Call of Duty, I'm sorry. Now, I said this game is great. I don't personally like it. Bunny hopping and Nicki Minaj skins are not for me, but I know millions of people like it, and who am I to tell them their favorite game sucks? And as long as it's a demand for that game, Activision will provide it year after year, because It's how things work, you know. Rated Modern Warfare low only because they half-assed the campaign. That was the only part of the game I was interested in, you know. I'm not interested in multiplayer in Call of Duty. So yeah, that 3.5 hour campaign was a joke, but I hear the last one is good, so they provide as little as they can each iteration and make billions in the process. So kudos to them. I mean, come on, bro. It's a business and they perfected that business. You need to give them that. I mean, what are you talking about? Now, special mention here must be Avowed. Woo! Another great game. It's not included in the table because we don't know much about its development other than the fact that it was rebooted once or twice by Obsidian and was in development since 2018. And from what I saw about the game, I wouldn't play it even if I was paid to review it. So I'm sorry for everyone who needed to play that game because they got early access or some shit. I'm really sorry. It's especially playing that after Kingdom Come Deliverance. I just couldn't do it. I don't know. I couldn't waste my money on that game. Let's look at this table. I included the engines in the table just for trivia reasons, so you know, and you wouldn't believe how much you'll get if you start yapping Friday night in the bar about game engines, you know, so take notes. Now, if you look at this table with pretty colors, those are supposed to paint you what I believe to be some sort of efficiency picture. I know it's very flawed because it doesn't take into account where a game was developed, and there's nothing about the copies sold because that info is not available on every title, and yeah, it's not accurate. What we have is not accurate, so it's pretty useless metric, but it would be a good metric if we would have the data. And let's be honest, if you would take that into account, I believe Call of Duty games come first, followed perhaps by Red Dead Redemption and yeah, Cyberpunk. But I let you guys decide for yourselves if I arranged these titles correctly or not. A small note here, Call of Duty, I feel it should be after Cyberpunk, and Dragon Age might be a bit lower on the list because of the development time, because 9 years is a lot of years, guys. Skull and Bones, at least, I know that for a fact. It's last. This is why the quality of these products is important. Because of their shortcomings and overblown budgets, they want us to pay more for less. Why we should pay more if you guys fuck things up, you know? If you take 11 years and you iterate 10 times on a game, you do what you will with your money, but why should we pay for that? This is why quality matters and should matter. Now, many will argue that you are not forced to pay for anything. If you don't like something, just don't buy it, etc. Blah, blah, blah. And that's true, but it's a different topic for a different video, and it's besides the point. Go away now. Next topic. My friend made a great point. My perception of quality in AAA games is based on feelings. Which are good in rhetoric, but bad in semantics. Ooh, fancy words. And it's a subjective metric, pretty hard to quantify. And I would agree if I wouldn't be a stubborn prick, you know. But here's my counterpoint. There should be a correlation between budgets and the perceived quality of a game. Even if quality is subjective, when you average it out over tens of thousands of people that review a product, you get a pretty accurate picture, you know, feelings or not. Steam reviews most of the time, not always, but most of the time that's the case. Steam reviews, for example, paint a clear picture of where a game stands a month or so after release. Again, in most cases. And this happens even when the respectable media tries to skew the reviews to one side or another, you know. Those guys are highly irrelevant, by the way. If you enjoyed this video so far. Now the conclusion. You can't have a healthy discussion about this topic if you stick too closely to definitions. Definitions are a great common point or starting point, if you will, from where you start a conversation or a debate, but definitions are made by humans and evolve over time. Even in mathematics and physics, things change when we realize something is not how we thought. No? You might say this is a pointless discussion because nobody cares how the industry is labeling a game. If it's bad, it's bad, and you would be right, but for the sake of the discussion and to hold these big AAA publishers and companies accountable to a degree, we should refer to games like Baldur's Gate 3, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and even Helldivers 2 as AAAs. AAA should be a feat of strength you can gain or lose, and not be born with it, like in medieval times. If GTA turns out to be a flop, it shouldn't be called AAA, no matter how big of a budget it had, who published it, and so on. So let's discuss below. Is a game worthy of its AAA status even if it's not great? Can indie games be perceived as AAA if they're exceptional? Am I wrong for saying Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 delivers AAA quality and content for cheap? This is it, folks. See ya.